Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Ed. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I hope you're all ready to get it started. Next week, I think is when most of you start. This year, I'm trying to see, maybe I shouldn't be saying, please subscribe. Just do it, right? Just do it. Happy New Year. So, very quickly, my special guest is here today. We've been trying to do this very episode since last year, of course, December, to wrap up the semester. We did have some technical difficulties. And this session will be where I talk about starting the semester right. But since I don't want to take away from that, the topic we want to discuss today, I'm going to do a very quick, and this again is going to be a little surprise to our special guest today, because I didn't tell him I was going to do a quick intro on starting the semester right. And I'm going to pick his brain also on what ideas or suggestion he has for starting the semester right. So, that being said, the topic for today, again, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Ed. I'm your host, Professor Chris. This is always and will always be the podcast to help you make informed choices, healthier choices while you're going through your college journey. Okay, nothing has changed from that. Today's topic is going to be about substance abuse, but again, before we get into that, I do want to take this opportunity to welcome our special guest today. Our special guest today is Dr. Norman Collins. He's a business management professional and motivational speaker who provides effective, successful, and quality leadership for businesses, organizations, and institutions. He is a minister. He is an author. He is a proud dad. And with all that, he bakes. Yes, I just said he bakes. Okay? But most importantly, he's a dear friend and his unpaid assistant. I am his unpaid assistant. We'll explain that later, but maybe this year I might start getting paid. We'll see. But as of now, I am his unpaid assistant. Please help me in giving Dr. Norman the motherland welcome. I did this the last time. He was very surprised. So today I'm going to do it very gently so it doesn't take him off a little bit. All right, so as usual, as you know, we always do our drums before we start the show. This is to Dr. Norman Collins. Still good?
Wow, it's still good.
That's great.
Still good.
That's
Matter of
good.
fact, it's even better than the last one, I think.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So, I've introduced Dr. Norman Collins. I'm going to digress a little bit, starting the semester right. I'm not going to get too much into that detail. That podcast is already there. I do encourage you to check it out very quickly, but I'm going to do a quick breathing here. First, before I get to my 4 steps, number 1 is always going to be check your emails. Not Facebook, please. Not Facebook. Did I tell you some of my students told me to, if I want to get to them, I need to, Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
check your emails.
standard.
Not Facebook, please. Are you still on the waiting list? If you are still on the waiting list, this is the time. Go talk to the professor. Go talk to the instructor. Just let them know you're still on the waiting list. If you could just come to their classroom, right? The reason I say this is because people might drop off. Week 2, week 1, maybe, you want to get a head start. So how about, hey, professor, can I please come to your class? I'm still on your waiting list. If I don't get in, fine. But if I happen to get in, then I'm not trying to catch up. Mm-hmm. Great suggestion, by the way, okay? Check your class schedules, any class conflicts. And please, if you're on financial aid, you need to make sure it's gone through and you've paid, because this week is deregistration. Mm-hmm. Some students don't even understand what deregistration is. Deregistration means you haven't paid your fees and they're trying to get people on a waiting list into the class, so you get dropped from your class, okay? All right, so my 4 quick steps. Again, please go check out the podcast. I don't want to get too much into this here, so we can get to our topic today. Step 1, of course, is tool prep, meaning you know what tools you're going to be using in your class. Get it ready. Step 2, know your environment. Your classes are going to be probably different if you're doing online. Know what it is going to be like so you prepare for it. Step 3, smart prep, meaning if your instructors are going to be using any new stuff in your classrooms, you want to know it before the semester starts. And step 4, last and the most important one, is mental prep. If you are not prepared mentally, you should be asking yourself, am I ready to start the semester? Just as we as instructors have been doing ourselves, you're not going to, don't worry about steps 1 through 3 if you're not ready for step 4. Okay, be prepared mentally here and then be ready to go. Dr. Norman Collins, anything else you want to add in terms of preparing for the semester to start?
Well, I think just even using what you said, I think if we were to add the word intentionality to that,
Thank you.
I think that really kind of further promotes what you're talking about, because you can, they can have, or we can have, if we're not intentionally mentally prepared, right, then we'll fall off the grid, right? So we have to be very, very intentional in doing that. So I think
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will help.
So again, with that, if you need more information, just go check out the podcast on Starting Semester Right. Let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is going to be about substance abuse. The title's Mindful Futures, right? How to navigate college without substance abuse. Reason we're trying to do this very podcast last semester, finals week, was because I was telling Dr. Norman, I said, I was just reflecting on what can help you prepare for your finals, and I was just thinking about ourselves. I was like, what did we do in college to prepare for the finals? And I was like, oh, I remember how people were on high octane in a bull, right? Talk about Red Bull, Green Bull, Green Bull, right?
Yeah,
whatever could get us through. And I say, you know what? Bigger picture. That is, again, that is still not good, but bigger picture is substance abuse, not during finals alone, but what students are doing. So that's the premise of how I came up with that idea for us to discuss today. In the process, I was thinking, well, I cannot do this on my own, right? I need to get an expert here. So that leads me to our disclaimer here. As you all know, and as I've always told you on the show here, very upfront with what I know and what I don't know. I'm not an expert when it comes to mental health, substance abuse. That's why Dr. Norman Collins is here. So I'll leave it as that. That's my quick disclaimer for today's episode. So again, we're going to be talking about the challenges college students face regarding substance abuse, the impact it can have on your academic performance, your overall well-being, and we're going to try our best to see what practical tips and advice we can provide. And again, Dr. Norman Collins is here to kind of help us do that. So with that, let's get right into it.
Okay.
Dr. Norman Collins.
Yes, sir.
I like to use Norman DR,
Yeah, that's fine.
which is what we use. So
Right.
okay. By the way, how was your break? How was your Christmas break?
My Christmas
holidays?
break,
Yeah.
my holiday break was amazing.
Okay.
It was amazing.
Great.
A lot of rest, a lot of eating some food
I thought I did that too, but I told you when you walk in here, I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm so drained.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give it all. But yeah, so you were good. Could you use another week, or you're ready to go?
Oh, I could always use another week, man. You give me another 2 weeks if I can. I mean, that's just understood. But yeah, I think I'm ready. I'm ready for next week.
You're ready to
though.
go.
I am.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm
That's
geared
good.
up and ready
And
for
I
it.
think
yeah.
our students are too. So that's
Yes.
good. All right. So on this topic here, let's very quickly look at the college landscape. Right. You've been to different colleges, and I will kind of touch on my college experience either too. Question is there, from your college experience, is there any college that could say, this is not our problem, substance abuse is not our problem?
I don't think there's one in the land, country, the universe. It's there, okay? If through but nothing of peer pressure, it's there just to be associated and to be accepted among friends. But it's there, and I think it needs to be, it needs to be addressed. But I do want to just kind of make sure we differentiate the difference between substance use
Thank you.
and substance abuse.
Please.
right? Substance use is whenever there is a substance, a chemical substance that has been prescribed
Okay.
by a doctor that you take according to the doctor's instructions, or it could be an over-the-counter drug that is taken per the directions on the box or the container. The abuse comes in whenever we go beyond that and take more than the doctor has prescribed for the sake of recreational use.
Okay.
And sometimes people may be abusing it because of their even some chemical imbalance, or it could very well be because of depression, of mental health issues, concerns.
Right.
So we want to make sure we distinguish that.
Thank you.
Drugs are good in their place.
Okay.
But back to my college experience,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do drugs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did Red Bull a lot. Though.
Okay.
Red Bull and prayer because I was a church boy, right? So,
Well, so again, to that point, and on a more serious note, I'm happy you did say that.
Yes.
From my experience, every time I talk about this, Christian school is where I started, so far as college goes.
yes,
Was substance abuse there? Yes. Even though don't tell, don't see, whatever it is, I knew it was happening there.
yes,
I left there and I went to, a public institution where, again, to my surprise, was very open and it was there. And I bring this fact up because I want students to understand that there is no college landscape that is inevitable when we're talking about this situation here.
totally agree. Yes.
Okay. So now that we've gotten that out, we know that it happens. Let's talk about the impacts that it can have on college students.
Well, I think when we look at what we call study drugs, students will oftentimes take various drugs, ranging from Adderall to Ritalin, and even caffeine tablets, right? In order to give them that energy and that edge to stay awake and to stay alert. The only problem with those is that there's a coming down. There is this settling that can take you to a place you don't want to be. And then when you start abusing those drugs, then you run into the zombie stage, and all of a sudden you got all these things going on in your mind, and you get into the classroom, and the exam is there, and you're studying. You're like, I know I studied this all last night, but when you came down, that crashing really kind of almost erased that for the moment.
Okay.
So we have to be very, very, very careful about that. Yes, sir.
So basically, that's going to affect your academic performance, your mental health.
Yes.
Then we start going down the road of, how it derails your goals, your personal development, and we'll get into a little more on that.
Yes.
Okay. You did mention this before about peer pressure. Okay, so we're going to get into that.
Sure.
I've always told my freshmen, graduating from high school, I said, usually and unfortunately, the first-time users in college are also the ones that go down really, really bad and really, really hard. Why? Because it's the first time I'm away from mom and dad, and freedom is all mine.
Yes.
That means it's also very easy for somebody to say, hey, welcome. Now that mom and dad are not here, I could help you out.
Right.
And I think that's some of the beginning of the peer pressure when it comes to substance abuse. So try this, try that, try that. Please help us navigate peer pressure.
Well, I think peer pressure is all about acceptance, right? When you get to college, and I can remember my freshman year at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, where I got there, didn't really know anybody. Again, me being the church guy, that was, church boy, that was, the church was my place. So the first place I sought when I got there, because my mother lived over in that area, was church. And that was like my go-to. And so that became like my family, aside from my mom and my sister, my family away from my home in Mississippi, right? So but the pressure that I initially felt was from like fraternities on campus, wanting to be a part of something in my mind greater, right? And so, but fortunately, I didn't give in to it because number one, the fee was too high. So thankfully, that was determined.
Hallelujah.
So, but it became a situation where And it becomes a situation for students where, like you said, they're away from home, they're away from all the discipline, and they have this freedom. So now you have freedom versus the discipline that and all of a sudden, this freedom and it starts to override this because everybody's telling them here in their face, in the right now, hey, come on, try this. Well, you're away from home, they're not gonna know, and so you end up giving into that, and before you know it, you're going down in this rabbit hole that you didn't see, all because you want to be accepted.
Right.
And the problem is, once you go down the rabbit hole, they're not going with you. Okay.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, the peer pressure. There are a lot of peer pressure will have you doing what you don't need to do. And then when you reap the consequences
Right.
of what you don't need to do, they're gone.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So
That is a very, very good point. I never really thought about it that way because you're thinking, oh, the people that you're hanging out with are constantly doing this here. But there is going to be a point where, they're going to say their goodbyes and they leave you just
exactly,
hanging.
yeah.
Right?
And then that's where you start claiming these are my friends, and then all of a sudden your friends start turning their back on you.
Right.
Now you're dealing with the disappointment, the rejection, and all of this, which, if you're not careful, will lead you to a substance to try and mask those feelings and heal that pain. So it can just spiral.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we're talking about peer pressure. The other component of that is then what is a good support system that is essential for maintaining substance-free college experience, right? What kind of building supports? I know we talk about friends, family, and campus resources. You're more experienced in that area. What is the building support to help us stay away from peer pressure and substance? So what should I be saying? Should I be saying substance abuse, substance use?
Well,
based on the definition,
you want to stay away from substance use if you can.
Thank you.
Only
Thank
if
you.
necessary is substance use necessary.
Okay.
But you definitely want to stay widely away from substance abuse.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Because even when it comes down to, believe me, alcohol is a substance as well, right? And in its proper place, it's okay. But then there are some people who that first drink takes them down a rabbit hole.
Well,
that they don't wanna go.
so that's kind of where I am, even with alcohol. And again, that's why I don't drink. But I'm like, yes, not knowing exactly even when to stop, how much is too much, right? Takes you down that. But anyway,
Yes.
let's build a support system. What are your suggestions on building a support system so we can stay out of peer pressure?
Sure. I think the ones that you've mentioned already in terms of family, very close friends. If you are a person of faith, the other persons who are of faith, maybe your pastor, whoever that may be. Also, whatever resources are available on campus, and then the local mental health agency is there. And then I think I always tell people, even me, to make sure you have a vent buddy. Everybody needs a vent buddy. It's a non-judgmental person who you can go and talk to without having to feel discomfort or feel ashamed or anything of that nature. Because when you're dealing with peers, peers will, many of them will like you as long as you have what they need, right?
Good point.
And so once you if you don't have, say for example, you may have money, right? And as long as you got money, you got friends, right?
Or you got a car.
Oh yeah, you got a car.
Right.
Yes, or you have a credit card. Okay, if you have any resources that they can use, but when that is gone, then all of a sudden now you're weeding out and you're finding out who your real friends are. Right. And sometimes you started out with 10 or 15, now you may have one or two people that might still stick with you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So good points. I do kind of, again, coming from the experience standpoint, when I talk to students, some of the things you mentioned, the family, they always see that as external because especially, and I'm not trying to stereotype here, but my male students, they're not calling home. No, they're not calling anyone. They're not even calling to check in unless they need money, right?
Correct.
When they pick up the phone, like, oh, mom and dad, I was just trying to see how you're doing. Dad is like, what is it that you need? Let's get it going, right? So, usually that is not the easy way, but I'm happy you didn't mention the on-campus resources
Yes.
that students could use, because that is immediate, that is internal.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think those resources that are, and it behooves students when they first get to campus to seek out what those resources are. And fortunately, at Durham Tech, we let them know at the outset for sure.
Right.
But then again, if the student realizes that he or she is having some difficulty or whatever, and they're just kind of meandering about, okay, who should I go to? They come to you or to me or maybe another faculty or staff member and say, hey, look, I'm having these challenges. What can I do?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always also told students, and again, I'm gonna look right here, they still don't believe me. I've told students, your best friend when you're at college is an instructor, not the guy who happens to be in your classroom. Because trust me, that semester, if they're getting some use out of you, if you are helping them with their homework, you're the best friend ever. The next semester, if you are not taking the same class, they're gone.
They're gone.
Right?
That's right.
Your instructor is always going to be there, and students find it very, very hard to believe. I mean, I went through this during grad school, was just picking that one instructor. And of course, it didn't hurt that during Thanksgiving, when I didn't have anywhere to go, that same instructor invited me over. So again, just a very quick reminder. Okay.
Yeah.
As we're talking about substance abuse, my students always think that is what fun in college is. If you're not doing that, you're not having fun. And I've always have to explain to them, as boring as my college life was, I think I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk about alternative social activities that could provide some opportunity for personal growth and other fun within the community that doesn't have to do with substance or drugs abuse or anything like that. It's clubs.
Yeah,
Yes,
clubs for sure.
go ahead.
Volunteering
Okay.
in the community with organizations that you feel akin to. Some people say, for if you like dogs or animals or whatever, what about volunteering at the animal shelter?
That doesn't sound like fun to me.
Well, no, it's not fun to me either. But I'm just saying it's an option. Okay. So, and then also there are other things, like you say, you have clubs, but also, what about just having those people around that, like on weekends, friends, go hang out and do fun things, sightseeing.
Okay, now
nature.
we're talking. Yeah.
Bike riding.
Okay. Go do some sports.
Some sports.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you are faced with those things that are of harm, such as alcohol or whatever, then you have to be intentional in your own discipline. To not do that. Because what I found was, if I could just say no the first time, I'm good. But if I give you a chance to keep talking to me about it, then it's a possibility that I may end up doing it. So if you come to me in the first place and I'll say, no, I'm fine, and I mean that, and I'm intentional, I'm good.
Right. So, I'm going to share, and if you have any stories to share, do that. But this is one story that always sticks with me when I talk to college students about not drinking, not doing this, not doing that, because this was mind-blowing to me, but I have to accept it. They sent out, the school sent out a campus-wide news about how this student was getting suspended. That student happens to be in my class. I didn't even have the opportunity to even talk to the student. I was just told, hey, this student is not coming to your class anymore. The situation that you're reading about, that is the student we're referring to.
Okay.
Basically, 4 students went to the club, got drunk, which is, by the way, very, very dangerous anyways, trying to drive back.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my student was in the back seat with one of the friend's girlfriend. And apparently there was some groping, and the girl reported that she was raped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Middle of the semester, right? We will probably have to address maybe sexual harassment on a different show. But since this was led by alcohol, substance abuse, it always kind of rings a bell when we're talking about this here. And as you mentioned before, you don't know, and you don't know how to control yourself. Don't even indulge in it, because from that student, he claims nothing happened. You know, the girl says no. So who's word against who's word?
Right.
But the fact is, you were not in the right mental state. So whatever accusation is brought against you, you have to accept it. Unfortunately, this is student. There was a jail time that needed to be served in this situation here. You know, so again, I go back to all that. But again, sorry to digress.
No.
There are other options to have fun in college besides substance abuse is what we're talking about.
Almost
right?
definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting close to this topic here. I mean, we could spend hours and hours talking about this here, but I'm also respectful of different times. And you are not going to be watching this for 2 hours anyway, so let's get right to it. Self-care, stress management, which we know, you know, part of it could be either substance abuse. So this is, by the way, this is Dr. Norman's area, so I'm going to just be quiet and I'm going to leave it up to him. Help us with self-care and stress management.
Well, first of all, self-care is the best care. Let me just say that, starting out. Again, if I could take this from the perspective of my faith for just a minute.
Sure.
Okay, I understand.
Sure.
But, you know, I was brought up with this scripture in Matthew 22, 39 through 40, you know, where Jesus says, you know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. You know, second is likened unto it that you love your neighbor as yourself. Right? And so for a long time, I was of the persuasion that, okay, I've got to love God, I've got to love other people, and then I've got to love me, because it's a sacrifice for me to love them before I love myself. But that's not what that says. It talks about, the comparison is love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if this is how you love yourself, this is how you should love your neighbor. Right? So if you're busy trying to help make sure that everybody else is okay, why not take advantage of the opportunity to make sure you're okay? And I use this example many times. If you go and you break your arm or your leg, where are you going? You're going to the hospital. You're going to the ER. I need some crutches. I need some medication, whatever you have, because I need to heal. But let your heart get broken. And you just internalize it. And you find yourself years on down the road, you're still angry about the stuff that happened back then. Now here you are 20 years later, you've got to peel back the layers of all of that stuff that you've been holding on to, which again goes back to the vent buddy thing I was talking about.
Right.
Whenever there are issues and concerns that you have, instead of allowing it to oppress you, which can lead to depression in you, you need to let that out, right? Talk about it, you know, allow someone else to hear. Many times it's not even about somebody else saying something to you. You just need to talk about it, you know. And I have friends like that. I go to them, and I just put it out there, you know. But again, these have to be people who are non-judgmental. And then if it's not a friend, definitely a therapist or a counselor. And one of the things I remember in my when I was getting my my doctorate and I was doing my dissertation, and the instructor said, "Well, listen, you just got to remember, when you're in ministry and you're pastoring and remember, you are not the certified professional. You have to learn to refer, because there's only so far that you can go." And I think a lot of times we, as even education professionals or whatever the profession may be, if it's not a mental health profession, let somebody handle that who is equipped to deal with that, right? And so, but taking care of your self-care is just making sure you're okay. Making sure you're okay. I was with my daughter this past weekend and her husband, and my daughter was like, she's one of these she's an overachiever, you know. She's got her PhD last year, and she's just in this. Yeah, she's in social work, right? So she's just all over the place. She's a mother. They have 2 kids. Her husband's a nurse practitioner. They lead busy lives. But when they were sitting at the house one day, I think it was on
How
New
proud are
New
you,
Year's
by
Day.
the way?
I am
How proud are you?
Super proud.
Yes.
I'm really proud. Yeah, you know. So, but they were sitting there, and her husband was like, he was just sitting there. He said, "Pops, you know," I said, "What's going on, Omar?" He said, I'm resting. Yeah. I said, "You know what? You don't even know how to rest, do you?" And that's just the truth. There are so many people who don't know how to rest, right? You know, so sometimes resting means putting aside any and everything that would encumber and take up space in your mind to just chill. And sometimes that's even for an hour or two, but it's got to be intentional. Just like
Intentional.
you put it
Right.
put it on the calendar,
Right.
intentional, whatever. You
Right.
got this meeting at 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
and you get the beat on Teams saying, okay, the meeting's about to start.
Right.
You need that same thing for your me time. Okay, my me time is about to start from 7 to 9. Don't call me. You know, because you need time to reflect.
Right.
You need time to breathe. You need time to just be.
Right.
And once
great.
once you've empowered yourself, now you can help other people.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. Before I get you to give us your last words on students just, saying no to drugs and substance abuse, I do kind of want to make a very quick thing here. You should not in any way feel obligated when you're about to talk about the Lord. Please, not on this show.
Well, thank you.
Not on this show.
I feel
Yes.
better already. Okay.
Great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
What are your last words as we start this semester to kind of help our students? Because believe it or not, as students are getting ready for the semester, some are also thinking about what it is they have to do to use to whatever to get them through the semester.
Yeah.
What are some of your last words to kind of help students start on the right path? And then I'll close.
There's a slogan that I use,
Yes.
and it says, "Stay focused, stay faithful, and finish strong."
Like that.
Okay? That's just a matter of, number one, taking things one day at a time. Don't worry about the midterm. Deal with today. Because it's all of these todays that are going to lead up to that midterm. And you've got to handle those before you get there. My students, when they are, I tell them in the syllabus, okay, hey, this is when this exam is going to be, and they have it's out there, okay, but this is week 1. Let's get through this module and whatever, and then we go to the next. But be focused on that, okay? And then be faithful to it. That means be intentional. Give it all you got, right? And if you do those two, you'll finish strong. That strong could very well be that 3.8 or 4.0 or whatever it is that you're looking for, but you got to do the work before, and that work has to be intentional work.
Thank you.
Those are my words.
That's great. So when we did the last episode, I've always said my prescription, instead of doing drugs, whatever it is, my prescription has always been to balance, eat well, exercise, and rest. And Dr. Norman Collins told me, he said, "Did you realize that this spells beer?" And I was like, "No, I didn't. But I'm happy you mentioned that." Because we're talking about substance abuse. So in my closing, think about beer, not that beer, all right? Think about the right beer if it helps you remember this. Balance, eat well, exercise, and rest. And by all means, don't forget to pray, if you do believe in that, because I do know it will get you through. Amen. As we wrap up today's episode, we hope you feel empowered to make choices that align with your values and contribute to a positive college experience. Remember, Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris is here to support you on your journey. Stay tuned for more insight episodes. It doesn't matter when we even record this here. We're going to try to find a better time for Dr. Norma to avoid traffic as we do this here. But it is a privilege and an honor. Behind the scenes is Mr. David, whom you're probably never going to see, all right? But I do appreciate all the time and effort. People ask me why I still do this here. None of us are getting paid to do this here. We are very excited. Every little thing we can do to help college students. And by the way, we've been doing this for about a year now. So, stay tuned. We've been blessed, and we're blessing all of you. And we'll see you next time on Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. Dr. Norman, thanks again.
Thank
my
you.
brother.
Appreciate it.
it.
Thank you, sir.
All right.